Jesus repaired. There he continued his study of the Chaldean secret doctrine, compared it with the wisdom of Egypt, and further proofs of their identity being obtained, he began his work of synthesis. And in the secret doctrine, there is a section where it compares the Pythagorean sayings with the statements in the New Testament, showing the Pythagorean spirit that Jesus Christ used in expressing himself. Sectus. The Pythagorean possess not treasures, but those things which no one can take from you. New Testament. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. It is better for a part of the body to be burned than to continue so in another life. And if thy hand offend thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter into life maimed than to go to hell. Use yourself as the temple of God. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God? The greatest honor which can be paid to God is to know and imitate his perfection. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. And again, what we read today in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, I produce myself among creatures of son of Bharata whenever there is a decline of virtue and an insurrection of vice and injustice in the world, and thus I incarnate from age to age for the preservation of the just, the destruction of the wicked, and the establishment of righteousness. So, this runs through all of his teachings. So, he was a reformer, as Buddha was before him. Buddha came for the 5,000 cycle, and he came about 600 BC. And Jesus came within that same cycle, but in a smaller cycle. It says here, both of these great teachers determined to break down this spirit of dogmatism which was threatening to overthrow pure religion. They both saw the intolerance and hypocrisy of the priests, the futility of their senseless ceremonials and prayers, the outward show of piety that covered their lack of true spirituality. As the Buddha took up arms against the Brahmanical priests, so did Jesus declare war against the proud Pharisees and Sadducees. Both of them were reformers. Both of them pointed to ethics as the only secure foundation upon which any true system of religion can be reared. The Buddha called himself Tathagata, he who follows in the footsteps of his great predecessors. As Jesus followed in his footsteps, so he too must be called Tathagata. So Jesus is in Nazareth. These Chaldean initiates were a philosophical sect opposed to worship of a personal god Jehovah, which was very prevalent in Judea. Nazarenes substitute principle that we now call absolute. Instead of creation, they substituted emanations. They were truly the early Gnostic sect. These were themselves divided into different sections, and the Ebionites, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, was the ones Saint John was their prophet. And they believed in the baptismal rite, which was the Chaldean rite of baptism. And Codex Nazarius says John was baptizing for 42 years when Jesus came to Jordan and was baptized in the river Jordan, and that he was 60. This makes him 60 years old. Now, the Ebionites, by the way, Saint John is Jesus's cousin. When he was in Egypt, John had joined with the Ebionites and continued his service with them. The disciples of Saint John and their modern descendants are called Mandaeans. They do exist today. You can check it for yourselves. Mandaean. And they live in Persia because they were persecuted at the beginning and driven out of their native land. And they do not read the Gospels or the Bible that is in circulation today. What do they read? They have the original Gospel of Matthew. Matthew was the evangelist and companion of Jesus, and he walked with him. And this original gospel is called the Logia of Matthew. And it contains the esoteric sayings of Jesus himself. It's the only half-true document that has come down to us. None other exists. And the Mandaeans have the original document. And in that document, it says that the Mandaeans do not believe in the divinity or uniqueness of Jesus, but consider him as a great prophet. They do not read Christian scriptures, but confine themselves to the study of the esoteric teachings of Jesus in the original Gospel of Matthew. Jesus, as you remember, gave his exoteric teachings in parables, but to those inner circle, he did leave this document with his saying, which is called the Logia of Matthew. It says here, from the Secret Doctrine, that these sayings were of same nature as the small manuscripts put into the hands of neophytes who were preparing for initiation into the mysteries, and contained the revelation of rites and symbols. And its equivalent is Logia Secret Discourses of the Mystery. So this is for the mysteries, and that is for what Jesus left. And you can look it up. In 140 AD, Papias, Bishop of Hierapolis, wrote, Matthew, however, composed the Logia in Chaldaic, but in Hebrew letters. And then continues to say, but each one interpreted them as he was able. So in other words, you need a key. Just like the Aphorita, as you need a key to unlock what it is, Logia of Matthew requires the same key. We have the secret doctrine. The secret doctrine has 7 keys also. So, what is written that is read with the eyes is one interpretation. What's in between the lines is another interpretation. So this Logia of Matthew cannot be understood without a key. So the Gnostics, we said that Gnosticism and Christianity was 100 years BC. In the 1st century, Christianity then diverged into 2 broad divisions. One, followers of the Mosaic law, its representative being Peter, and the other, Paul, who then is standing for the Gnostic side of Christianity. And the difference is, one believes in a carnalized Christ and an anthropomorphic God, and the other puts the absolute principle instead of a personal God and the Christ principle that we refer to, which was in existence 500 years BC. This is the difference, and we will see that where it goes. Okay. Paul is a very brave, courageous man and comes out and makes the statements boldly from the Gnostic side, and Peter is a circumcised Jew who sticks with the old Mosaic law. And in the 2nd century, the Orthodox Church and movement in the church as Christian Gnosticism goes in parallel with these 2 who fought before the church took side with Peter. And we did say for the Orthodox Church, personal God, carnalized Christ, and what else? You have to accept it on faith. With the Gnostic Christianity, absolute principle, Christos principle, and what else? Knowledge, that each human being is capable of obtaining knowledge and bringing about salvation for himself or herself. So, the 2nd century between the church. So this fierce battle, HPB says, was between personalities and principles. And it has 3 phases. In the 2nd and the 3rd century, the church fought the heresies by means of refutations. The Gnostics were called heretics during that period. They were not called Gnostics, they were called the heretics. And I have to cut it off, and I will do so, and we will continue it in another time because I can't give it. But I want to finish this bit. In the 4th century, the church borrowed the ideas she bitterly opposed, materialized them, and metamorphosed them into her own rituals and dogmas. In the 5th century, she destroyed all of the records of her plagiarism and inaugurated 1,000 years of mental and spiritual darkness. And I will cut it here and continue with it next time. I've already run out of time.